So, here's the plan. First, we're going to go to the Sybil Shaler grave, which is by the Egg Harbor City Lake. We're going to take, yeah, it's scary. We're going to take Indian Cabin Road, which is a back dirt road to the Egg Harbor City Lake. Then, after we visit the Sybil Shaler grave, we're going to take Clark's Landing Road through Port Republic, all the way up to Smithville. In Smithville, I've heard there's a couple of haunted locations in the historic town of Smithville itself. So we're gonna ask around. Then we're gonna go through Smithville, and basically right there, we're gonna visit Leeds Point, which, as you all know, is the home of the birthplace of the Jersey Devil. Very good. But there's gonna be a couple of other haunted locations that we're gonna visit in Leeds Point as well. Okay, so we actually did go into the lobby of the Smithville Inn, and I asked some of the employees if they'd ever seen any ghosts in the basement, and they said even though there is a creepy vibe down there, that they've never experienced anything down there. But hey, nice place. What we're doing right now is Bobby and I, while the rest of the family warms up in the car, because it is a little chilly out here and it's wet. Bobby and I are hiking right down the road here to the first set of gravestones, and you can actually see it coming up on our left here. So we're hiking down to the first set of gravestones to see if we can find the graves of those shipwreck victims that supposedly haunt this area, and we are looking for a death date of 1854. This is one of the oldest cemeteries that I've ever seen, or at least one of the oldest looking. Some of these headstones look like they might be older than 1854 actually. So this particular graveyard, if I had to guess without looking at some of the stones, and some of the stones I can't even see the dates on them, I would say this might even be older. This might predate the shipwreck, so let's look. So this is someone that passed away, Hannah E., wife of Joseph E. Bowen.
Oh, it's 25 years old.
She was 25 years old, and she passed away in 1863. So this is almost 10 years after the shipwreck. Oh, okay. So maybe we are on the right track. We have some dates in the 1860s here. Let's check. We have some headstones way in the back here that we still have to check out. But so far, none of the dates have matched up. What we're really looking for is a cluster of 1854s. Oh, hold on. We have somebody from the Leeds family, which is not rare around here. We are pretty much in Leeds Point right now. So that's interesting, but still no shipwreck survivors. CL must be another Leeds family member. This is definitely a Leeds plot right here, so I don't think we're gonna find the shipwreck survivors here. Risley Blackman, another famous South Jersey name. Just like there's a road named after Leeds, there is a road named after the Blackman family, Blackman Road. But this date is 1854.
Close, actually.
Interesting. So even though that death date was 1854, I don't think that was a shipwreck victim, because this is a Blackman family plot, and Blackman, first of all, the ship was from Rotterdam, so we're looking for German or Dutch names, and you know, Blackman, that is a local name in this area. So even though that headstone was 1854, that's definitely not what we're looking for, just a coincidence. All right, let's check these back stones. So this is the Dowdy family. Again, another famous South Jersey name. There is a Leeds Road, and we saw that there are some of the Leeds family buried here.
This is 13 years.
This is a 13-year-old that died. And then we saw that there was the Blackman family buried here, and now this is the Dowdy family, which is, there's a road in Pleasantville not far from here named Dowdy Road. So this I don't think this is where our shipwreck survivors would be buried, because this seems to be a very local a plot where very local South Jersey families local to the area would have been buried. So I think we're going to want to head to the actual church yard. Now, as we look around here, there are some headstones that are just completely overgrown. They are sunken, and some of them you can't even see, the markings on them. So if we don't end up finding them at the church, I'm going to guess that they are buried somewhere back here, and that they are in just such ill repair that it's impossible to see.
Some of the woods
Yeah, they even run into the woods. So we found the Dowdy family, the Leeds family, the Blackman family, and now this is the Clark family. Again, another South Jersey family that was settled here early on in the 1800s and before that. So this is a group of family plots that we're in. This is not an area where shipwreck survivors from Germany would have been buried.
Look at that one.
Survivors, I mean victims. They didn't survive. Hopefully they're not burying the survivors, right?
That
Yikes.
one's really old.
Yeah, but again, these have to be family plots. These are all family plots back here, I believe. One other thing, here's another famous South Jersey early family, the Higbee family, and we actually referenced the Higbee family in that reading of the Jersey Devil book. So it's so funny to read that and then to come out here and see the name Higbee. And I actually know people with the last name Higbee, still a famous name here in Galloway Township, New Jersey. Our police chief, last name Higbee, and some other people that I know as well. So it's just funny to see these old South Jersey names here. But this is definitely not the graveyard that we are looking for. Alright, so this is Emmaus Methodist Church right here on the corner, and so this is going to have to be where our shipwreck victims are buried. Again, looking for 1854 death date and probably German sounding names, I'm thinking. So as we were pulling up to the church, and we're unloading as you can see, but as we were pulling up to the church, I saw that there was actually a sign. So I mean, I was kind of wasting my time in the other cemetery, even though it was very interesting. But there actually does look to be an older sign that tells us where why do I keep saying survivors? They didn't survive. Where the victims, of the Powhatan shipwreck are buried. So we're going to go check them out right now.
What do these S's stand for?
That is an excellent question, Jared.
This one's from 1878. It says German H. Smith.
German, that's a strange first name, German. Also, this graveyard is loaded with Higbees again, and Dowdies and other fairly famous South Jersey names. But definitely Higbee seems to be the most popular one. Alright, we are approaching what I believe to be the plot. And you can kind of see, so if you look, you can kind of see a lot of these gravestones start to look the same. So I'm thinking that they may have all been put up at the same time. Alright, so you can see that this is a very old sign that says, in memory of 54 German immigrants who lost their lives when the Powhatan went down in 1854. However, these are not the Powhatan gravestones. So are they marked graves? I'm still not seeing any gravestones marked 1854. Here's another Higbee. So where are they buried? And again, one thing I'm noticing is that there are unmarked graves, or they are marked graves, but they are basically just marked with some rather primitive looking stones. We really can't see the dates or the names, and some of them just look like regular stones, like you would hardly even take them for a gravestone if you just saw them lying in the forest. But these are obviously where people are buried. Is this where the shipwreck victims are buried? Possibly. Alright, we looked through this whole cemetery, and did we find it, guys? No. We found lots of family plots, and we found some unmarked graves, which I can only assume are the graves of the shipwreck victims, but we did not find any death date of 1854. We found the memorial sign, and not far off from the memorial sign are the unmarked graves, so I can only assume that right on this hill is where the shipwreck victims are. And who knows, maybe that's why they still haunt the place, because their gravestones are not as nice as everybody else's. I'd be pissed too. Alright, so we are headed right into Leeds Point, and this is the intersection of Leeds Road and Moss Mill Road. And here's Leeds Point Community Church, and yet another boneyard. And this is pretty much where the Jersey Devil's from, folks. We're not going to spend a ton of time right here because I feel like if we were going to spend a video on the Jersey Devil, we would want to pretty much dedicate the whole video to that. So maybe next year, maybe next October, we will do that. But this is Leeds Point, and we're just going to drive around a little bit and see if we can see anything that might be of interest. All right, so we were at the very end of Hammock Road, and there's a lot of caution tape up here, and I know the ruins of the homestead, the Leeds homestead, are back there, but we are not about to tromp through there and trespass with all the kids. I mean, I have no problem trespassing on my own, but I'm not going to do it with my family in tow. So, I think this is the end of the line for us, but as you can see, I mean, it just looks creepy back here. There is a very old historic house right on the corner here, but this is not the Leeds house. The Leeds house is further back into the woods, and it's basically just a foundation, very similar to what we found with the Sybil Shaler house.
So why?
So after doing a little bit more research, I can confirm that the shipwreck victims were indeed buried right smack dab in the middle of that cemetery. And it was the site where those stones were, just the plain, unmarked stones that some of them just looked like regular stones. You would never have recognized them. If you weren't in a graveyard, you would never have recognized them as being gravestones, some of them. So you have basically an unmarked grave. Now, you did have that sign that told us that that is where the victims of the Powhatan were buried. But really, I find it almost kind of just kind of sad, really, and it's a really sad story because you have these hundreds of immigrants that are on their way from Germany in the middle of the 1800s, and they're on their way from Germany, and they get in this horrible shipwreck, this late winter blizzard that comes up out of nowhere and wrecks their ship, and everyone on board dies, over 300 people, and you have these small communities made up of these established families that have these established graveyards, these established family plots, and must have been hard. Must have been hard to find places to bury all these bodies. You had 300 bodies, or over 300 bodies, and we know at least 50 of them were buried in those plots at Emmaus Methodist Church. And it's my theory that there's basically a mass grave there, or what would be equivalent to a mass grave, because how else are you going to accommodate over 50 bodies in such a small area? And just so many strange facts surrounding this, which may have led to why people tell ghost stories about this sort of thing, about what happened to the Powhatan. Some of these ghost stories may have come about because people believe that these souls are not content with what happened. They're not content with the mass grave. They're not content with the fact that there are no name markings there. Maybe the spirits supposedly are not content with the sign that's in disrepair there. And we can read from the book that some of these bodies actually disappeared before they were even buried. So there's no names to mark these immigrants. If you were just walking along, unless you knew about them already, you would have no idea that these people are even buried there. So it's just a very strange, sad circumstance, and it may have been back in the 1800s that some of these established families didn't even want these German immigrants buried, in this established family burial ground. So who knows? Maybe there was a controversy there. Maybe that's why the burial site just kind of looks so, mundane. You can't even recognize it. So it's very interesting. Of course, just like the Sybil Shaler site, pretty sad. Another tragic death, and that's where a lot of these stories about hauntings and ghosts come from. Is people believe that a lot of these deaths, or if either it's a tragic death or a burial with some strange circumstances, without recognition. In this case, That's where some of these rumors and legends about hauntings arise. All right, well, we're going to switch gears to another legend, and we're going to be going back and revisiting our friend the Jersey Devil. And as I said before, we're not really going to be hunting the Jersey Devil today. We didn't really go after him hard today. We did take a drive past Leeds Point Road down to Leeds Point, right in the area where the homestead, where the Leeds house was. But as you could see from the video, it was all taped off and things like that. They don't want people back there, and I'm not about to go traipsing back there with my family. But I do have the next best thing, or perhaps even something better. I do have a friend that has a Jersey Devil story, a Jersey Devil encounter, if you will. And so we're going to be talking to Mr. Wilson about his encounter with the Jersey Devil, and I've set up an interview via Google Meet. So we'll be talking to him about his experience with the Jersey Devil. All right, Mr. Wilson, nice to meet you. So
good to be here, sir.
Good to have you on. We heard through the grapevine that you have a little bit of a Jersey Devil story, and I would love to add that in to the end of our to the end of our haunted history tour here. We're at the end of it, and we did go out to Leeds Point today, but we really didn't look around at all. It's all fenced off. I mean, if you drive back there to the end of Hammock, where the Leeds house supposedly is, it's all there's police tape. There's no trespassing signs, so it's quite apparent that there have been people back there a lot, and they don't want people back there. So for me to be traipsing around back there with my 4 kids and wife in tow, it's just not good look, you know. So I figure either the next I don't know if you would think the same thing. Maybe you would just keep walking through that tape. I don't know.
That would be a little weird. Yes.
So, but I figure I would thrill my viewers with either the next best thing or maybe even something better. Because I personally don't think that if we were going to see or experience the Jersey Devil, I don't think it would be around there anyway, because most of the sightings have been other places. So, I heard, like I said, I heard through the grapevine that you have a bit of a story, and I've never heard it, so this will be a first time for me. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead, and I'll just give you the floor here.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes, I do. It is quite an amazing story. So it goes back to Halloween night of 2004, which was a Sunday. I know it was a Sunday because 2004 was actually the first year I ever played fantasy football. And so this whole event takes place while I am on my computer following my fantasy football team. Here in Galway
is don't do fantasy football.
Yes, exactly. Do not play fantasy football.
I've never done fantasy football, actually. I've never done it. I'm like the
Don't do it,
only,
because apparently this is what
the
happens.
only man in history probably that's never done it, I think. Or the only American man. I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is what happens when you first do it. So it's Halloween night. And here in Galway at the time, Halloween was from 6 to 8. We had a curfew. So I didn't have to take anybody out. My daughter was at that point only 2.5 months old. Yeah. She was born in August. So my wife and I were just handing out candy. And as typical in Galway, about 7 o'clock, 7:30, the knocks on the door start to die down. And so I figured it was safe, and I went upstairs. So I go upstairs to the computer room, which is one of the 2 rooms facing the street, front of the house, and I'm just watching TV, and I have my fantasy football up. And by this point, it is now after 8 o'clock. So as far as we're concerned, Halloween's over. It's quiet, and I hear my wife come upstairs. She's in the next room, and she is nursing our daughter. And all of a sudden, there is this sound, this unmistakable sound of many, many rocks hitting my window. Not one rock, not 2 rocks, but many rocks. As if someone picked up a handful of gravel and just chucked it at the window. And so I immediately jump up and I look out the window, and I can't see anything because it's still pitch dark out in the front of our yard.
Now, did you assume that that it was probably like kids, like pranksters?
Well, so no. Well, yes, at first. Yes, that's why I jumped up.
Well, yeah, I meant like at first, yeah.
Yes, so absolutely. So
Yeah.
at first I jump up, I look outside, and again, this is a key detail. I look out the window and I can't see anything because it's still pitch dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately after that, I'm like, yeah, my wife's like, what was that? I'm like, I don't know. I run downstairs, and I open up the front door, and I go out in the front yard. And as I step just outside of the porch, the motion light kicks on.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden in my head, I'm like, well, wait a second. When I was just upstairs and I heard the rocks, when I looked out the window, I couldn't see anything because it was pitch dark. If it was kids,
They would have
tripped the motion light.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I also don't hear anything. I don't hear footsteps of kids running. I don't hear laughter. I don't hear anything. It is completely silent. And so I don't know why I did this or whatever, but I go into my garage and I grabbed the closest thing to a weapon that I could find, which was about a 3-foot length of PVC pipe. And I immediately, and a flashlight, and I immediately start combing my front yard for whatever could have caused this.
Right.
And I don't see anything. I'm scanning the bushes. I'm looking around the street. Again, I don't hear laughter. I don't hear anything. It is still completely silent out there. And I look up at the roof and I see the rocks. Like I can see, and it's a handful, or at least a handful of tiny rocks sitting on the roof.
Huh.
So now I'm like, I don't know what that was. And again, I don't know what, there wasn't anything that happened outside. It just, something inside of me went, oh yeah, it was the Jersey Devil. And all of a sudden I became very aware that that's what it was. Like he had paid us a visit. He had either flown by our house or whatever. So now I'm looking for him. I'm searching up in the trees. And again, I have my trusty PVC pipe, which, as everyone knows, is the best defense against the Jersey Devil. So,
that's like kryptonite to a Jersey Devil. Yeah.
It is like PVC, man. It wasn't even around when he was created, right? So needless to say, I don't see anything, but I search everything. At one point, my wife came out and she was like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, don't worry about it, because I didn't want to tell her. I thought she would think I was crazy. But I went back in the house and I was convinced after seeing the rocks on the roof. What's that? What's that?
Crazier.
Yeah. So crazier. So anyway, there was nothing. I found no evidence other than, again, and I'm not, again, it was dozens of tiny little rocks on this roof. So that was where I thought the story was going to end. So over the next couple of days, I shared the story with some family members, and everyone laughed. Oh, you're crazy. And then I told the story to one of my brothers.
Crazy.
You're crazy. I told the story to one of my brothers.
No, I wouldn't.
And he was laughing, oh yeah, blah, 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 right up until I mentioned the rocks part of it. And when I mentioned the fact that my windows had been pelted with rocks, and that there were still rocks on my roof, I can still see his face. He got, like, all of a sudden he got very serious. And he was like, rocks? And I said, yeah, why? So apparently he was aware of, and the Jersey Devil legend has many, many varieties, but apparently in one of the varieties, Mother Leeds, in an attempt to remove the 13th child from her fence where it had taken up roost, would throw rocks at it in order to scare it away. And so there are, and after I did a little research, there are many stories in which people have claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil or encountered the Jersey Devil, and it throws rocks in an attempt to scare them away. Yes, which I was not
That's
aware of.
interesting. I never heard that.
I was not aware of that. So after my brother told me that, I did a little research, and there are, again, you're talking. I mean, when you talk about the Jersey Devil, if I can find 10 stories that corroborate rocks, I feel like that's a success because it's such, there's so
Yeah, because there's not that many. Yeah.
What's that?
Or I said, within the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, I'm not aware of that many accounts. Most of the accounts, a lot of the accounts are 100 years old, So
they are. So
this would be more of one of the more.
Yeah, actually. So, well, all right. So the most famous, of course, are just about 100 years old. They actually just predated World War One. And he was seen in Vineland. He was seen in Philadelphia. He was seen in Mount Holly, right? But there were documented sightings from people like in the 50s and 60s. But again, it's one of those.
I know there's a number of sightings before the Vietnam War.
Yes. Yep. Because and that has led to this idea that he kind of shows up before bad things happen, kind of thing. There was a reported sighting in EHT, I want to say back in between 2005 and 2010 in the winter, where a homeowner found footprints on her snow-covered roof that could only
I may have heard that.
What's that? Could have only been made by a puma.
I think I did hear that one. The footprints on the roof
in
the
puma or something. Like it was a giant, like whatever made it was a big creature. But so anyway, so I endured some ridicule over the next couple of days as I retold my story, because again, at this point I was convinced. And I would like to add, when I was growing up, where I grew up in Browns Mills, the Jersey Devil was a big part of where I grew up. In terms of kids sharing stories, trying to scare each other. So this wasn't something that I just kind of encountered when I moved to Galloway. I've always been aware of old JD and kind of always believed in him. So long story short, though, and the next weekend was my wife's birthday. And so we got together with my in-laws. I had already told them the story. And really no one outside of my brother, who was kind of somewhat convinced by the whole rocks thing, no one really seemed to believe me. And then, and I'm going to hold it up. You might not be able to read it, but there's a little newspaper clipping
and
here.
I'll put a screenshot up on the eventual video.
Okay. So this is from the Atlantic City Press. It is actually dated Thursday, October 28th, 2004. So 3 days before Halloween. And the AC Press used to have a series or a little section in the life part of the newspaper called The Buzz. And the lead story is The Devil, You Say. And according to this, a woman had recently reported seeing the Jersey Devil on Moss Mill Road in Galloway near CVS. So she's talking about the CVS in Smithville. And she said,
You were just there today.
Yeah, I saw a winged animal fly down the middle of the road and cling to a pole on the corner near CVS. I stopped my car in the middle of the street and reached for my cell phone to call the police. It was tall, had glowing red eyes and large black rubbery wings tucked behind its back. It made a loud screaming sound. The woman's husband would not let her call the police because he was worried they would, quote, find her nuts. But the fact that this woman, within the same week, claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil, just, in my opinion, solidifies the fact that he was in the area and for whatever reason decided to grace me with his presence with a little flyby. So he has not been back since. And every Halloween, I kind of hope that he will show up.
Even though you still play fantasy football?
No, well, see, I'm not playing.
Maybe he'll come and convince me to start playing.
No, this is the first year since 2004 I have not played. So I'm actually, in the back of my head, I'm hoping that maybe he's going to go, you know what? Let me go see old Mr. Wilson there.
Get him jump started again.
Yeah, but
I
it
think
was
the Jersey
it was
Devil's a
weird, man.
hockey fan.
Well, you think he well, then he would actually be behind a good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was. In all seriousness, the whole night was very weird, and I remember being very scared when I first heard the noise, and just not like as I pieced everything together, like I came to the realization that it couldn't have been natural, whatever it was. It had to have been something other than
Right.
a natural
pile of
event.
rock all at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Not
actually
set your
kept
light off and everything.
right, like no motion, like no sound from kids, no motion. The motion light didn't kick on. Nothing. It was all very weird. So
You didn't catch him in any of your tiger traps or anything like that?
no, I didn't catch him in the tiger trap. Did you ask about a tiger trap? um,
I just think everybody has property like mine. That's what I'm thinking of what I have.
you have a giant.
I guess it's just me.
I should have made like a big, like a bungee trap in the front yard. Right.
Bear traps. Yeah.
Coyote traps.
Yep. I need one of those actually.
I know you do.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story.
No
and,
problem.
I hope it'll get more believers out there. I just bought myself a brand new Jersey Devil shirt today from Underground over in Smithville. So I'm about to go try that on. But I think this will make a great wrap up for our haunted history tour here. And even if this history is just as recent as 2004, although that's probably a lot longer ago than we'd like to think. But
right.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Well, guys, that's it for our haunted history tour. I think you all did a really good job. I know it was hard going to all those different locations, and I know it may have taken a little while. It was a little cold and wet on the last day, but I think you all did a very good job, and I think we learned a lot. I would say that's a mission accomplished. Let's have a little debrief session. Any questions about what you guys saw?
Are ghosts real, Daddy?
No, honey, ghosts aren't real. We have nothing to worry about. We don't have to worry about the spirits of the undead coming after us or anything like that. It's just a fun way to study history. Makes history come alive, gives it a cool, spooky angle around Halloween time. Just makes it fun. But no, we don't have to worry about any ghosts. Bobby, what was your favorite part of the whole thing?
Well, I think it's just really crazy that all those people on that ship died and were buried on a mass grave.
I know. I never knew that was there until I read that book. And you hardly even notice that sign. So it's fun learning about those things in history, but at the same time it's very sad, and tragic that happened. Evan, what was your favorite part of the whole thing?
Hot chocolate at Wawa!
Of course, hot chocolate at Wawa. I should have known. Jared, come on, man. Are you playing on that Nintendo Switch again? You gotta stop playing video games so much, man. What? Come on.
No, I was just...
What do you have there?
This was just the stone I got from the Sybil Shaler grave.
Wait a second. You brought something from the Sybil Shaler homestead?
Yeah, obviously. Where else would I get it from?
What have I told you about bringing haunted artifacts back to our house?
Nothing.
You could have doomed us all! Oh no! Wait a second, that wasn't the ghost of Sybil Shaler.
Well, who was it?
Nosferatu!